how to cleanse your mind from negative thoughts and think clearly again. There's a silent battle happening right now, not around you, but within you. And the weapon isn't a sword, it's your thoughts. You've been waking up tired not because your body is exhausted, but because your mind is overloaded. Let's be honest. When was the last time you had a clear thought? Not just a moment of silence, but a moment of pure clarity, where you knew what mattered, what didn't, and what you needed to do. If you're tired of overthinking, if your soul is drained from mental fog, if your life feels like it's moving but you're going nowhere, then you need this. This message is not just another motivational talk. It's a detox, a reset, a map back to your mind. Because until you cleanse your mind, you will never truly know what you are capable of. Stick with me until the end, because clarity isn't a luxury, it's survival. Your mind is not a mystery. It is not some untouchable space where thoughts simply appear and disappear without your control. Your mind is more like a garden or a room. And it becomes what you allow, what you plant, what you tolerate. Mental clarity, the ability to think clearly and live with focus, is not something you stumble into by accident. It's something you choose. It's something you build. It's something you fight for. Because in today's world where everything is designed to distract you, confuse you, and pull you in 1,000 directions, choosing clarity is a radical act. Most people are not walking around confused because they're unintelligent. They are confused because their minds are cluttered, full of emotional baggage, unresolved issues, fears they've never named, and pain they've never processed. And the scary part? They think this fog is normal. They've grown used to it, living in mental chaos as if it were just life. But it's not. That fog, that mental weight, that inability to focus, it's not how it's supposed to be. Clarity is not just for the lucky, it's for the intentional. You have to decide that enough is enough, that you are done letting your mind be a storage unit for every insult, every fear, every failure. You have to reclaim that space. You have to look in the mirror and declare, I will no longer be the victim of my own thoughts. Because here's the truth, your thoughts are powerful. They are shaping your decisions, your mood, your energy, your relationships, your future. If you don't take control of your mind, someone else will. If you don't guard your thoughts, the world will fill you with noise until you can't hear your own voice anymore. Mental clarity begins the moment you stop blaming your confusion on circumstances and start taking responsibility for what you allow in. You are the gatekeeper of your mind. You decide who and what gets access. You choose what you consume. You choose what you rehearse in your head every night before you sleep. And here's the beautiful part. If you can choose confusion by neglect, then you can choose clarity by design. Start today. Start by getting honest. Ask yourself, what am I thinking about every day that is robbing me of peace? Maybe it's resentment, maybe it's fear of failure, maybe it's regret over a past mistake. Whatever it is, name it. Clarity always begins with truth. You can't clean what you're pretending doesn't exist. And don't wait for some perfect moment to get started. Clarity doesn't require a retreat in the mountains. It requires awareness and discipline. It's turning off the noise. It's unfollowing what confuses you. It's choosing silence over stimulation. It's removing the toxic influences you've normalized. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable at first. You'll have to let go of some habits, maybe even some people, but what you gain in return is worth everything. Peace, focus, power, direction. That's what a clear mind gives you. So if you want to think clearly again, if you're tired of mental fog, emotional exhaustion, and living in constant reaction, then hear this. Clarity is a decision. And the moment you choose it, you begin to rewire your destiny. Not in some dramatic overnight change, but in the quiet, powerful, daily commitment to guard your mind like it's the most valuable space you own. Because it is. Everything in your life flows from that space. Protect it, purify it, and watch how everything else begins to align. There is a silent killer hiding in plain sight. One that most people never recognize until it's already done the damage. It's not always loud, and it doesn't always announce its presence, but it is persistent. It wraps itself around your progress, your confidence, your clarity, until you no longer recognize the person you were meant to be. That killer is toxic thoughts. And here's the terrifying truth. Toxic thoughts are invisible chains. You can't always see them, but you feel them. You feel them when you wake up already tired, even though your body rested. You feel them when you start doubting yourself, not because you're incapable, but because your inner voice has been repeating the same lies over and over again. You're not good enough. You always mess up. Why even try? Those thoughts may not be spoken out loud, but they are loud inside you. They shape your posture, your decisions, your reactions. And the longer they stay unchallenged, the deeper they dig into your identity. Somewhere along the way, we were conditioned to think that just because a thought entered our mind, it must be true. But that's a lie. Not every thought that visits your mind deserves a seat at your table. Some are thieves. They come to steal your peace, your joy, your direction. And the worst part? Many of us let them in. We let them echo. We let them stay. Toxic thoughts are like viruses. They infect, they multiply, and they spread into areas you never expected. What starts as a simple self-doubt can grow into procrastination, which turns into self-sabotage, which morphs into a pattern of failure. And soon, it's not just your thoughts that are toxic. It's your habits, your relationships, your entire lifestyle. All because you never stopped to detox your mind. The danger with invisible chains is that you can learn to function with them. You can still smile, you can still work, you can even succeed on the surface. But underneath, you're shackled. And there will come a point when that weight becomes too heavy. It's just a matter of time. That's why mental cleansing is not optional, it's essential. You can't keep feeding on negativity and expect to produce a positive life. You have to begin by recognizing what is not serving you. What thoughts keep circling in your mind like vultures? What memories keep replaying that no longer deserve a spot in your present? What assumptions have you accepted as reality without proof? Toxic thoughts are sneaky. They dress themselves up as logic, as caution, as protection. But in truth, they are poison, and anything poisoned slowly dies. You were not created to live in confusion. You were not designed to wake up feeling stuck, defeated, or unworthy. That's not you. It's the buildup of every negative seed planted by experience, environment, or even your own misinterpretation. But here's the breakthrough. What was planted can be uprooted. What was repeated can be rewritten. And what has been tolerated can now be terminated. Mental cleansing begins with confrontation. You must face the chains and say, no more. No more repeating the past. No more rehearsing the pain. No more letting a wounded version of yourself drive the direction of your life. There is a version of you on the other side of these thoughts, a version filled with clarity, peace, confidence, and purpose. But you'll never meet that version until you release the thoughts that are holding you hostage. So don't wait for a breakdown to force a breakthrough. Take control now. Be honest. Be intentional. You have the power to break the invisible chains and reclaim the clarity your mind was meant to carry. Because freedom doesn't start around you, it starts within you. And the moment you cleanse your mind, your entire life will feel lighter, clearer, and finally, your own. You cannot heal in the same environment that broke you. Read that again. Because that single truth is often the reason why so many people stay stuck. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. They try to reset their minds, find clarity, and rebuild their peace. But they're still surrounded by the same noise, the same negativity, the same chaos that created the fog in the first place. You don't just need a new mindset, you need a new environment. Your environment is not neutral. It's either feeding your growth or draining your strength. It's either sharpening your clarity or scattering your focus. And far too often, people underestimate the power of what they surround themselves with, the conversations they allow, the media they consume, the people they associate with. All of these things either clean the lens of your mind or smear it until everything looks distorted. You can't expect to think clearly when you live in the middle of confusion. When your phone is constantly feeding you fear, comparison, and chaos. Don't be surprised when your thoughts become anxious, insecure, and scattered. You can't binge toxicity and expect clarity to flourish. What you surround your senses with is what your subconscious absorbs. And what your subconscious absorbs becomes your internal dialogue, the story you tell yourself about life, people, and your own worth. Sometimes the most powerful mental detox doesn't start inside. It starts outside. It starts when you make a bold decision to silence the noise, to remove yourself from places and people who profit off your confusion, to stop trying to win the approval of those who constantly diminish your value. You see, clarity is not just about what you add to your life. It's about what you're willing to subtract. There comes a moment where you realize your peace is more important than pleasing everyone, that your focus is more valuable than staying in the loop, that your future cannot afford the cost of your current distractions. And in that moment, you start to cleanse your space. You take your power back. Not just by thinking different thoughts, but by stepping into different spaces. Is because if the energy around you stays chaotic, your mind will never rest. No matter how much you meditate, or journal, or pray. Some of the fog you're fighting is not from your past, it's from your present surroundings. From constantly being around people who complain, gossip, fear the future, and shrink their dreams. That atmosphere is contagious, and if you're not careful, it will slowly erode your ambition. You'll find yourself second-guessing your calling, dumbing down your vision, and settling for less, not because you changed, but because the air around you changed you. That's why healing demands boundaries. That's why transformation requires separation, not out of pride, not out of hate, but out of protection. You can love people from a distance. You can still be kind without being contaminated, because your clarity, your mental health, your destiny, they are sacred. They deserve an environment that reflects their value. So today, ask yourself, what around me is feeding confusion? What voices are weakening my belief in myself? What patterns have I accepted as normal, even though they're toxic? The answers to those questions will show you where your next breakthrough begins, not just in your mind, but in the space you choose to live, breathe, and grow. Because sometimes the clearest mind comes not from thinking harder, but from walking away, from stepping into new light, from choosing silence over chaos, truth over noise, and peace over popularity. Your thoughts are not just background noise, they are the architects of your life. Every decision you make, every risk you take, every boundary you set or fail to set begins with a thought. And the most dangerous thing about the mind is this: it never stops building. Whether you're intentional or careless, your thoughts are laying the bricks of your future, one by one. That's why the first step to thinking clearly again is becoming deeply intentional about what you allow your mind to dwell on. The truth is, your thoughts are not random, they are trained. What you think about consistently, you begin to believe. What you believe, you begin to feel. And what you feel, you begin to act on. So if your life feels stuck, scattered, or spiraling, you must trace the trail back to your thought patterns. Because behind every action is a mindset. Behind every delay is a story. Behind every excuse is a belief system silently writing your script. You cannot create a new life with an old way of thinking. You cannot move forward while your mind is chained to thoughts of failure, fear, or regret. And you will never rise above the level of your most frequent thoughts. That's why mental cleansing is not about wishing for peace. It's about training your mind for it. Discipline is not just for the gym or your goals. It starts in your thought life. Your mind is like a garden. If you don't plant purposefully, weeds will grow automatically. And those weeds, doubt, shame, anxiety, resentment, will choke out every positive seed before it has a chance to root. That's why clarity doesn't come from hoping your thoughts get better. It comes from training them, from filtering every thought with questions like, is this true? Is this helping me grow? Is this building or breaking me? Far too many people live on autopilot, letting their minds become dumping grounds for fear, criticism, and comparison. But you were not created to live in mental chaos. You were created with the power to take your thoughts captive, to interrupt the lies before they set up camp in your soul. Because thoughts are not harmless. They have direction. Every thought is taking you somewhere, toward healing or toward hurting, toward peace or toward panic, toward vision or toward confusion. The good news is this: you can reset your mental environment. You can start rewriting your inner dialogue today, but it takes more than motivation. It takes discipline. It means being mindful of your self-talk. It means rejecting thoughts that don't align with your future. It means feeding your mind with content that builds your character, not just entertains your cravings. It means spending more time in reflection than in reaction. Mental clarity is not a gift for the lucky, it is the reward for the disciplined. The more you train your mind to focus, the more natural clarity becomes. The more you reject toxic narratives, the more room you create for truth. This is not about being perfect, it's about being aware. Every time you choose a healthy thought over a harmful one, you are rewiring your brain. Every time you pause and reflect, instead of reacting in fear or anger, you are taking back control. You have the power to shape your inner world. You are not a victim of random thoughts. You are not stuck with the mind you've had. You can renew it, retrain it, and reclaim it. It starts with discipline. It starts with awareness. And it starts with the decision to no longer let your mind wander through chaos unchecked. Because a disciplined mind is a powerful mind, and a powerful mind creates a clear life. You can't expect clarity when your inner world is cluttered. Think of your mind like a room. If it's filled with noise, distractions, and unresolved baggage, even the most powerful ideas will get lost in the mess. And that's what happens to so many people. They are not broken. They are not incapable. They're just mentally overcrowded. Their thoughts are constantly competing for attention, past regrets, future worries, other people's opinions, the weight of expectations, the noise of comparison, and in all that noise, their own voice, their true voice, gets drowned out. Mental clutter is invisible, but its effects are painfully real. It shows up as fatigue you can't explain, as anxiety you can't escape, as procrastination that keeps you stuck. And you begin to ask, what's wrong with me? But the issue isn't always inside you. It's around you and within your mind. You're trying to run a high-performance life in a mind that hasn't been cleaned out in years. You wouldn't expect a cluttered car to drive smoothly. Why expect your cluttered mind to lead you forward? You have to make space. You have to clear out what doesn't belong. Just like you declutter a room, you must declutter your thoughts. That means addressing the mental junk you've been ignoring. It means letting go of the arguments you keep replaying in your head. It means forgiving people who never said sorry, not because they deserve it, but because your peace does. It means stopping the constant scroll through lives that don't belong to you and reclaiming your focus for the life you're building. Sometimes the problem isn't a lack of answers. It's too many questions flying around unchecked. Thoughts like, am I good enough? What if I fail? What will they think? These aren't harmless questions. They are distractions dressed as self-reflection. They drain your energy and paralyze your momentum. You don't need to solve every problem today. You need to silence the noise long enough to hear what truly matters. Clarity comes from simplicity. It comes when you strip back the non-essential and get real about what's serving your mind versus what's suffocating it. Ask yourself, what thoughts have been on repeat that are no longer relevant? What emotional weight have I carried for too long that no longer serves my growth? What mental habits have become normal but are actually toxic? Awareness is the first broom you use to start sweeping the mental floor clean. Don't be afraid to pause. In a world that worships busyness, stillness feels like weakness. But it's in the still moments that clarity is born. When you shut out the noise and sit with your own thoughts, not to judge them, but to understand them, you begin to recognize what's been holding you back. You begin to spot the lies you've accepted as truth. You begin to see where your mind has been tricked into survival when you were meant for clarity and creativity. Make no mistake, cleaning your mind isn't a one-time act, it's a daily decision. Just like you shower your body, you must rinse your thoughts. You must choose what to keep and what to release. Because if you don't consciously cleanse your mind, the world will fill it for you with fear, noise, division, and distraction. So start today. Turn down the volume of everything that doesn't align with peace, purpose, and truth. Unsubscribe from the noise. Release the weight. Give your mind the space it needs to breathe, to think, to dream again. Because when your inner world is clear, your outer world begins to align. And that's when real transformation begins, not from more effort, but from more mental space. You cannot detox your mind while feeding it daily doses of mental poison. What you consume mentally is shaping how you feel, how you think, and ultimately how you live. Every article you read, every video you watch, every conversation you entertain, it all becomes mental nutrition or mental pollution. And many people don't even realize they're mentally exhausted. Not because life is so hard, but because their inputs are so toxic. Your mind is like fertile soil. Whatever you plant in it grows. If you constantly plant seeds of fear, outrage, gossip, comparison, and negativity, don't be surprised when you harvest anxiety, confusion, and emotional fatigue. It's not always trauma holding you back. It's mental junk food disguised as entertainment, scrolling, or keeping up. And every time you consume something, you give it access to shape your internal reality. Ask yourself, what are you feeding your mind daily? Are you nourishing it with truth, wisdom, purpose, and peace? Or are you scrolling through highlight reels that make you feel less, watching content that stirs fear, and engaging in conversations that drain your spirit? Clarity cannot survive in a polluted environment. If you want to think clearly, you must first guard your gates, your eyes, your ears, and your attention. This is not about living in a bubble. It's about building boundaries. It's about realizing that not every voice deserves space in your mind. Not every trend deserves your attention. And not every opinion should be allowed to shape your emotions. Just like you wouldn't drink from a dirty cup, don't let your mind sip from contaminated sources. Start filtering your intake. Choose what you watch. Be intentional about what you listen to. Surround yourself with voices that stretch you, not shrink you. Read things that nourish your vision. Listen to words that build your belief. Spend time with people who remind you who you are, not make you forget. Because clarity is not just about removing the fog. It's about never inviting it in to begin with. If you're serious about cleansing your mind and thinking clearly again, you must treat your mind like a sacred space. What enters, echoes. And the echoes either motivate you or manipulate you. Protect your peace like your life depends on it, because it does. Your decisions, your dreams, your mental health, and your purpose all flow from the state of your mind. Cut the noise. Unfollow the chaos. Stop letting garbage content take up sacred space in your mind. You were not created to live in confusion. You were created to live with clarity, purpose, and power, and that begins the moment you start feeding your mind like your future depends on it, because it absolutely does. Sometimes the reason your mind feels overwhelmed isn't because you lack intelligence or ambition. It's because you never pause to reset. You keep running, striving, pushing until your thoughts blur into each other and everything feels urgent. Yet nothing feels clear. But clarity doesn't come through constant motion. It comes through conscious stillness. Your mind needs space, silence, and solitude to realign. It needs moments where you're not absorbing anything, not reacting to everything, but simply listening to yourself, to God, to truth. There is something powerful that happens when you step away from the noise of the world and enter the stillness of your own presence. You begin to hear the thoughts that have been buried under deadlines, distractions, and other people's expectations. You begin to recognize patterns, why you're triggered, why you're tired, why you feel stuck. And in that space of reflection, clarity starts to rise like the morning sun after a long night. We live in a time where distraction is disguised as productivity. We're told to keep moving, keep grinding, keep scrolling, but speed without direction is wasted energy. If you don't stop to reflect, You'll climb ladders leaning against the wrong walls. You'll achieve success that doesn't satisfy. You'll chase goals that don't belong to you. Reflection is not a weakness. It is your realign your priorities, rediscover your values, and reawaken your inner compass. There's a reason the most powerful people in history carved out time for solitude and meditation. It's because wisdom doesn't shout, it whispers. And you won't hear it if you're too busy to listen. Sometimes the breakthrough you're praying for isn't waiting in the future, it's sitting inside your mind, buried beneath noise you haven't cleared. You don't always need new information. Sometimes you just need a new perspective, and that comes from reflection. Take time to sit with yourself, not on your phone, not multitasking, but really sit. Ask yourself hard questions. What am I avoiding? What needs to change? What have I accepted that I should have challenged? These moments may not feel productive at first, but they are life-shifting. They expose what's been hidden and invite healing into places that have been ignored. The mind is like a mirror. It reflects what it's shown. But a foggy mirror can't reflect a clear image. And a foggy mind can't make wise decisions. Reflection is how you wipe the glass. It's how you start to see again. It's not a luxury. It's a necessity if you want to live with clarity, direction, and peace. So give yourself permission to pause. Protect your quiet time like it's sacred, because it is. In the stillness, you don't lose time, you gain wisdom. You don't slow down your progress, you sharpen your path. And when your mind is realigned, your steps become purposeful, your heart becomes peaceful, and your life begins to reflect the clarity you've long been seeking.